So I thought it might be worthwhile just taking a look at this watch in greater detail. Those of you that are thinking about taking the plunge into Homage territory, you know, again, as I said in my previous videos, you know, being able to find a Rolex at retail, especially, you know, a coveted model like the Kermit as an example, or in fact, you know what, any Rolex sports model, you know, they are expensive pieces even at retail, and you know, unless you're wanting to go into the second-hand market and pay, you know, 2 or 3 times the factor of the original retail price, Homage is probably more ever so, you know, now in this period, you know, really good value alternative. Again, you know, you'll find a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about the value proposition, you know, between something like this Steinhart versus a Rolex. And you know, let's be clear, I'm not trying to tell you that this watch is better than a Rolex, because it isn't. But I think what a lot of reviewers and a lot of watch people take away when they've held one of these in their hands is that pound for pound, dollar for dollar, this watch really does punch well above its weight and is a true value option for those seeking a Rolex look, but without that huge Rolex price. Anyway, so onwards and upwards, guys. Let's get into the review. So, guys, here it is, the Ocean One 39 with the green ceramic engraved bezel and the black face. So this is essentially the Steinhart Ocean One 39 Kermit, as I like to call it. Again, as I mentioned, you know, I was really keen on looking at purchasing a Submariner, but I absolutely refused to pay the second-hand rate, and you know what, I really have a distaste in going into a store and asking to be put on a waiting list. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. And again, you know what, guys, there's no such thing as a waiting list, there's just a preferred customer list. Yes, I'm sure there's a shortage of sports models in terms of, you know, supply versus demand, but essentially, you know, when you're asked to purchase a watch that you don't want in order to be able to be put on a list to get the watch you want, I think that's absolutely ludicrous, and I think, you know what, it's absolutely appalling that a retail store would expect a customer to do that. But anyway, putting that aside, guys, like I say, I decided to partake in a Homage, and Steinhart for me is a brand that I've previously had experience of, and I thought, you know what, this is something that I want to purchase. So, as I mentioned, this is the Ocean One 39, 39 being the diameter of the watch, so across the way here. As you can tell, one of the big design differences between the Rolex and this Steinhart are the lugs. You can see they're much thinner than the maxi case lugs that you'll find on the modern Rolexes. Another thing as well you find with this Steinhart is it's got a much flatter profile here. It uses 316L steel, so not the 904 that Rolex uses, although Steinhart have just bought out a diver using 904, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see, you know, in the next couple of years, Steinhart moving to 904 steel as it becomes more widely available. As I mentioned, you've got that nice ceramic green bezel, and it is engraved, slightly different up at the top where it has that lume triangle, as opposed to the lume pip that you would find on the Rolex. It is a screw down crown, signed with the Steinhart logo, and you have a solid case back there with a seahorse type logo, which is a little bit reminiscent of possibly an Amiga, so a little bit of a hybrid here. You do have the Rolex style bracelet with the clasp. It's very nice. One thing to note, if you have purchased a Steinhart, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the gauge on this bracelet and the clasp is a hell of a lot thicker than it used to be. And you can see that just there, it is a lot thicker than it used to be. Lume on this, I think it's BGW9, which is very, very strong. So I would expect similar sort of lume capacity to be, you know, if you've had a Seiko die watch in any form, then you'll know that the lume on those is legendary. This is probably not that far off that, and certainly has a nice sort of bluey white iridescence to it in the the evening. I will try and get a night shot for you, and so you can see, but yeah, nighttime legibility on this watch is not a problem. The one thing that I probably would say that I think Steinhart could improve upon is the magnifier. Like most homages, this probably sits at about 1.5 to 1.75 in terms of its magnification, and not the 2 times that you would find on a Submariner. It's a little bit disappointing because, you know, they do everything else so well on this watch. The magnification is, you know, I would have thought just something relatively simple that they could do, but like I say, it's, you know, you can still see the date quite clearly, but it's just, you know, if you're going to get it to 1.75, try and get it to 2. In terms of water resistance, no problems here. It is 300 meters water resistant, so you know, you don't need to worry about going out in the ocean or doing a bit of diving with this watch. It is fit for purpose as long as you have that screw down crown. Okay guys, well really that is about it from me in terms of what I can show you on the watch. I will have another video coming up because I also purchased a GMT from Steinhart, so that will be coming soon.